Welcome to South Bay's first ever Meet the Movers webinar, hosted by yours truly, Justin Jenkins Reyes, who is myself. Today, we're going to be listening to my father and our CEO and president of South Bay Moving Systems, Mario Reyes, who's going to be jumping into all things essentially moving, specifically on the military side. But hey, you guys, feel free to ask questions anytime you want. If you want to jump in, raise your hand. Either Shane or Zayden or myself will get to you, and we'll stop just to address any kind of concerns that you'll have. If you can't think of anything at the end, we're also going to be hosting a Q&A forum at the very end. But without further ado, I'm going to share my screen with you guys so you guys can see our brief presentation, and then we can jump right into it. One moment, please. Can I get some sort of thumbs up that everybody can see the screen? Awesome, awesome, awesome. So once again, welcome to the Meet the Movers webinar. This is Mario's brainchild. For him, he thought of how do I make an area plus where anybody can come and ask questions. There's no question that is dumb. There's no question that's out of date. He's ready. He's open to go. We're going to jump into this right now. So without further ado, South Bay CEO and President Mario Reyes is going to be talk about his journey into South Bay and his connection with the military. So I'll bring it to him.
Well, first of all, my name is Mario Reyes, and thanks for the introduction, Justin. I got in the moving business about when I was 12 years old, and I cut down boxes, things of that nature, and work at a moving company in Southern California called Pacific Van Lines. And Pacific Van Lines was based out of Torrance, California, and that's in Southern California. And we had, I think we had like 4 or 5 offices at that company. But there I learned the basics of moving. It was a union shop, and everybody was tough on you back then because there were no extensive child labor laws like there are today. And so I really started from the ground up. Became a contractor at 19, bought my first piece of equipment at 21, multi-truck owner at 23, first agency before I was 30. And here I am today. Went through a period of wandering all throughout the industry. And then in 2013, I opened up with today's Southbay Moving Systems.
That's awesome, and thank you to hear. So South Bay's been around for 13, 14 years, led at the helm by yourself. Give us a little bit of insight on what it's like leading South Bay and your connection to the military moves and why they're important to you.
Well, the military moves are important to me because it was a good base. It was a good base for me growing up. And it's a good base for our company because it was steady work. And it was steady work, and it's hard to break into what they call the national account system. And it's hard to break into COD moving too. But military, I knew it was steady. It has a little bit of paperwork and things of that nature that you have to get through, but I already knew it, and I thought it was a good place to build our business. It's been able to afford me, to buy places at a young age, start a company, employ a lot of people. We're in 30,000 square feet now. We've got 16 trucks. And I wouldn't have been able to get there without it. So that's my connection to it.
Awesome growth and awesome reverence for awesome company. So now we're going to jump into, you guys, some of the things to prepare for on a moving day. I think a lot of customers always have some insight or always wondering, what are things to prepare for? How do we let, can somebody put themselves on mute, please? I'm sorry, I just can't see anybody else's screen. So in terms of the first steps, decluttering, keeping things, donating, discarding things, can you share some sources that people can use in order to when they're trying to clear out their stuff? And can you also share some approach and technique that can make the whole process easier?
Well, I just think that anybody that has a PCS move or even a Diddy or now called a PPM move, they have a weight allowance. If you think you're gonna be near your weight allowance, you may want to take the time to declutter. The only thing about it is always keep in mind that you have to get the things out of your home. In the old days, if you haven't done it in a long time, at least this is California. I'm a California mover. A lot of the charities do not come into your house anymore. They come into the garage, but they won't go and get a dresser upstairs. They won't get a refrigerator in an apartment or a house because they're risking damage and things of that nature. And so then you have to think about that when you're doing it. I have some local resources that I could probably share in the chat, but I think that everyone has a favorite charity that they may be able to get out. And the military members in their community, I know that they have an kind of an intranet, and they've got a family group on Facebook that they can get rid of things and put it on there and post and probably get a lot of things out. But other than that, in our industry, we don't want you to get rid of anything because that's more weight and we get paid by the weight. But this is actually a show geared to the military members and to help to benefit them. So if you think that you might be close to your your PPM weight or your PCS weight, then that would be a thing that you may want to do.
Awesome. Excellent. Excellent. And just what we talked about, what timing the perfect move. Now, we know with military moves, the date is sometimes set. But in terms of, hey, is it best to move in the summer? Is it best to move in the winter? If you're giving people suggestions, how would that go about? What would that approach be?
Well, a lot of times, the service members they don't have a choice. They have to be on a duty station at a different time. But there's things that they can do. One is the PPM move. If they decide to take matters into their own hands, then they can be date selective as long as they're there at their duty station beforehand. A PPM move, or for the older service members, a DITY move is maybe the way they would like to go, and that's a do-it-yourself move, or I don't even know the acronym. It's personal property move or something like that. That's the new PPM move, but it's the same thing. And I think either one is good. We'll talk about the PPM versus DITY. But the last week of June, I used to always call it Hell Week, right before the 4th of July. That's the busiest week of the year. If you can avoid that, then that might be something that you can do, or go a little bit before or a little bit after. It may be the thing. If you're like, hey, you have to go, then all the companies will, go into and do whatever they need to do. But it's just a recommended time to know. It's almost like the proverbial week before Christmas for a retailer. So, you may want to get on and get out a little bit earlier or a little bit later. We do the Naval Postgraduate School, and graduation is from the 10th to the 17th, the middle of June usually. And that's when everyone wants to move. So if you can get out a little bit before then or a little bit after and you have some leeway, the guys aren't as, we're just not as busy in the area.
And a little bit more like looking for a professional mover and choosing your mover. Obviously, we want everybody to choose Southbay Moving Systems, but what are some questions that people can ask? How do we identify the good from the bad?
Okay, so, well, if you're going to go PPM or DITY move, you can actually look for a professional mover. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the broadcast here. But there's some things I want to touch back on. So I want to circle back to that because that could be a long, just a very long explanation. But on the short of it, I would say, there's people in housing that you see your friends of PP, have moved before, and you've gone over their house and you actually see to say goodbye, and you see the way the movers are taking care of their stuff. You may want to jot their name of their company down and reach out to them if you're going to do a PPM move. If you're going to do a PCS move, sometimes the company's not near your base. It might be from an outside, but when you're getting your survey done, really talk to the surveyor. And then after that, when you're assigned a mover, really talk to the operations staff to address concerns, to say, hey, listen, this is, I've got this piece. And they'll, I can't speak for everyone. I can speak for myself, but we'll try to address it. And that's just the key that I'm trying to say is communication.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So now we're going to go into a little bit what you kind of mentioned earlier that we're going to brought into some of the top concerns from the military community about moving specifically. This is a short portion, you guys, but we're going to go over home protection and our approach and what differentiates us from other moving companies. Mario, let's dive into that.
Okay, well, so our base is the Presidio of Monterey and the Naval Postgraduate School, and they made a big push with more inspectors. Um, there's a lady out on our place named Trina, and she's doing an excellent job. And she's with the inspectors, and she works with the movers and works with them good. And it's not adversarial, and that helps us out because sometimes the service companies in whatever base you're at, they may have a shortage of materials during the busy season. And the inspectors back in the old days, they were like not necessarily referees, they were advocates for both the mover and for the transferee. And they would bridge the gap. If they said, hey, they would sometimes be the voice. If somebody was shy, they would be the voice. So home protection, we down rug runners. We lay neoprene rug runners down like you see in the illustration, and that's like a wetsuit material, and that usually works on carpet and hardwood floors and tile. And then our base is actually asking everyone to put at least one door jamb cover up with every move, and you can cover the door. If you go outside on your door and you see streaks across it, it's because the mover kind of, when they brought something in, they scratched the door. So I always advise to cover the front door or to even take it off. It'll be, and then put it back on after the move.
Awesome, awesome. And then lastly, just proper packing.
There's not too much we can say about that. Everybody's got different standards, and I probably would just leave that to the question and answer period.
Of course, all right, and that's perfect time because we're diving right into that. Thank you so much for going through that presentation with us briefly. And now we're going to open up the floor, you guys. Do you have any questions, comments, observations from Mario? Like we said before, there's no question that is out of his range that he's not willing to answer.
Well, if no one has anything, or if or until we warm up a little bit, I just wanted to say this. We're in a different time now, and the GHC is here. Everybody's worried about it. The military is 11% of all the moves in America, so it's a big, big, big national account. Okay, and the pricing may not be 100% right right now, but eventually this program will overtake the old program. It just will. Like it's not if, it's just when. Everybody's hoping that it won't, but I'll tell you what, as an older guy, when the DP3 program came, which is the current program, everybody hated it. Oh my God, DP3, that's the end of it. I'm not doing it. And then after a while, everyone figured out how to make money on it, how to get it together. And I think it'll be the same thing for the new program. There's the SCAT code holders, and I understand their concern. That's a big, big, big revenue for them. And I don't have one myself. If I did, I'd be pretty mad at the program myself. But like anything else, hey, the guys that sold horses when the cars came, they were pretty pissed off too. You know what I mean? Like, and they didn't want it to come, but then the car came, and then the plane came, and then the guys that owned a whole bunch of trains, they got mad. You know what I mean? But they had to innovate, and so do we. With what we're doing moving forward, and we have to start treating the military like it's a national account or anybody else, or just like a single move. We've gone and invested in a company called 300X. It's the company founded by Ernie, Pena, and Juan Mata, just on training. I'm going to tell you right now, that's nothing new. Man, in the 70s, Allied, United, everybody had a training video, how to pack a box, how to do this, how to do that. Then everybody got away from it. And then now it's coming back again. And, Ernie and his group are spearheading that charge. And I'm happy to be a part of that. And happy that that's going to be the gold standard for Southbay Moving Systems moving forward. Would you have anything? So we just went through a training on Saturday, And my operations manager is there, and his name is Chris Gonzalez. Chris, I don't know if you can hear us, but do you have anything, and you're on mute, but if you unmute, do you have anything to say about the training that Ernie brought us through?
Yeah, so hello, my name's Chris. I know some of you guys on the screen. So all I had to say about the 300X training we had this weekend or this past weekend was a lot of our guys had the mindset of a lot of us are all veterans, you know. Some of the guys that we have are 20, 15-year veterans. So, they've seen it all, they've done it all. So before it started, I was kind of hearing their little commentaries like, oh, what else are we going to learn? We know how to wrap a piece of furniture. We know how to pack. We know how to load. And, sure enough, a lot of people know how to do all that. And me and Gabriel were like, just open your, just participate, show up. And we had we had a good show out. And, I've been in the business 23 years. So as it started, Ernie said this is usually a 2-3 day session. We consolidated into one day. And I'll tell you what, I'll talk a little bit about what happened. But at the end of the day, it was like almost 5 o'clock. I'm like, man, I wanted it to keep going.
Oh,
I'm
that's
like, oh
nice.
man, I wish we had another day. I learned some things that, everybody in the back of their head says, I know everything. But, we're students of the game, like Ernie said. Every day we learn something new. You got to open up your mind. So a lot of our guys that had not negative comments, but sarcastic comments before. When we showed up Monday, Tuesday, asked them how it went, and they all, a lot of guys were impressed. They were like, all right, it's a new technique, something different, and they all appreciated it. So, and me myself, I was like blown away. I was like, wow, this is some good stuff, and I was impressed. And it takes a lot. I'm not saying I'm the best mover, but it takes a lot to impress a good mover. And I think Ernie and what he's doing, it's spectacular. And you know, all our guys, nobody said anything negative. After, they were like, "Oh yeah, good stuff." They're sending me photos like, "Hey, look at our load." We had some photos today. And inspiration. Juan Mata is whoever knows Juan Mata, his loads are something out of this world. They're spectacular. His guys, we worked with his guys, the last couple of years during summer, out of state, and they're at a different standard than a lot of people are. I'll say even they're at a different standard even from where our group was, and our goal was to get to their standard. And a lot of guys, once they open up and actually see the training and go through the training, then they realize like, what? We thought we were at their standard, or maybe they were at some point. Trickles down, and constant training is what you need. Constant training, learning every day. Be open to learning, and that's one thing
Nice.
that, like I said, Ernie. The class was spectacular. Me and Gabriel are still talking about it, so that's
Well,
a
Thank
that
you,
was a
Chris.
real
listen,
good.
I
I
think
appreciate that,
that,
man. Thank you for that
Jo-
insight. Georgia, we see that you have a question up for Mario.
I do, and I'm sorry I'm off camera, just fighting a little bit of a cough this evening on the East Coast here. And
thank you
I
for
just
joining.
want to follow up with the training to the crews, to the boots on the ground. We have to remember that our military customers don't understand the intricacies of this moving world. They think they're getting one company and that is an employee-based company, and that one CEO has control over the entire move. They don't understand we have crews that aren't necessarily tied to an agent, and that those crews might show up first, and maybe the driver knows them personally, but maybe not. They are confused if they are going to give a tip. Well, it's going to be him to the driver, because I don't understand the crew isn't part of the driver team in many
No,
cases. So I think communication with the military customer is important. when our agents or our drivers get with the customer and then explain that to them, because we know that the TSPs, the move management companies, are not doing that. So that would be my one tip for agents from my point of view in this industry. Because I think with the military customers and them understanding the GHC that is coming, you're right, Mario, that is going to change a few things. But really, it's not for the boots on the ground, the people that are doing the work. It's still going to be packing and loading. So listen to those military customers. We know it's stressful for anybody that's moving, and always try to escalate any situation that you have to the inspector. Don't argue with that military customer. You know the rules. That customer may not. So go ahead and get that inspector out there. Let them be that referee, not you. That's just some thoughts from my point of view.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Georgia. And just to piggyback off that, honestly, so in terms of the customer life cycle, that in terms of communication, that I think what everybody's emphasized, how does South Bay approach their communication with their military customers? I know we keep on enhancing on the inside with 300X, but externally, what does that look like? Are we sending emails? How does that look?
Well, we treat all our customers the same. We don't treat like our COD customers, which is some people call them one-time national accounts, sometimes just our internet customers, whatever you want to call them. We treat them the same as the military, and we've had good response with that. And we do a thing called CMET. We call, message, email, text, and that's how we communicate with our customers. But we call it CMET. Because some people like a call. Personally, I like a call. My staff will text me and say, "Did you get a text? Did you get a Slack?" I'm like, "Man, can you just pick up the phone and call?" So I like call, but some of the other guys, like the younger people, they like text messages, and then mid-level between me, they like email. So I mean, like everyone's a little bit different. So I say, and the service members are the same way. So let's hit them with all forms of communication: call, message, email, text, and then let's follow up on them. I mean, because they may not understand the situation and they're uncomfortable talking on the phone, but if they have a text message, they may be able to say, "Hey, the mover, is it commonplace for the mover to balance the box on his head?" And they're worried about their stuff, and it's like, okay, well, the guy's really from the Caribbean and he likes to balance. I don't know, whatever it is, you know what I mean? So like we have to explain that, and we have to give them like a safe place, so to speak, to be able to communicate and to feel like, hey, this is what I want. Now, can we accommodate everything? No, we can't. But at the same time, I tell customers that, we talked about building protection or like whatever. We carry carpet masks, but it's not required by the military. So I have some customers that say, "Hey, what are you guys going to do about the stairs? It's a military move and it's carpeted." I'm like, "If you're really worried about it, because we're just doing the pack," I'm like, "Get some carpet masks, get a roll." And then some of the customers are like, "Well, thank you," and some are like, "We're not supposed to pay for it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, this is my suggestion. This may help out." And sometimes if it's us, we'll do it just to help the client out, but it's not mandated by US Transcom. And so I try to tell them, all of us that have been operations, they say, "Hey, can you take your shoes off?" Well, we can't. But in some cases, I have my guys wear shoe booties, and then I have a clean, dirty crew. That's what I call it. I have guys from the outside. I bring it into the entryway. I pad up the entryway, lay down either cardboard or masonite, and have a clean area. And then they just drop it there. And then two guys with booties stay in, and they're the ones that actually put all the stuff in the house. Put all the stuff and deliver in the house. And that's what I try to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And thank you for like almost emphasizing on kind of our approach and how everybody has different approaches. When it comes to kind of to circle back to our original statement in terms of identifying what makes a good mover from the bad one, let's dive into that a little bit. And then also maybe let's transition into PCS versus PPM moves, the pros and cons of both of them.
Okay. Shane, do you have a question?
No, remember she just was giving me a thumbs up.
Okay. All right. No, it's her hand's raised. Okay, all right. So, okay. Well, if you're going to do a PPM move, my suggestion is this: if you saw a move, one of your friends in the area, and they have a referral, go with them. Start to talk to that customer. If you're going to do a PPM move, if you went, you saw the quality of the move, write their name down. We had a move. I forget the guy's name. I'll come back to me. I shouldn't mention it on, but he actually was so impressed with us that when he came to move, he says that, hey, I want to use you guys and I want the same driver. Well, we had 3 months to prepare for it. We had him the same driver. We got him the dates that he wanted. We got him the delivery time that he wanted. He was ecstatic. And that's the way it should be if you're going to PPM. I guess it would be caveat about that is for the members to be careful because there's a lot of scams out there. So the good deal, because they get a lump sum and they're like, okay, I'm saving money, goes back to the old adage of all that glitters is not gold. And you have to be careful on like, hey, like I would say to customers before, I'm just giving an example. 3 movers came in and one bid $8, $9, and $10. And then someone else comes around with a $5 bid. And then I had customers that like said, oh, I'm going with the $5 guy. And I'm like, listen, go with the 8, 9, or 10, or maybe I was the highest, maybe I wasn't. But I said, go with one of the top 3 because the guy that was way off, something's wrong. And then sure enough, 70% of the time they'd call me and said, how did you know? And I was like, it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
Now, if you were buying a TV and you knew it was a Sony or whatever the hot TV is, and they're not going to take out the inner workings of the TV on a deal. So that's going to be good. But if it's too low, you're sacrificing quality, something's going to happen. And so that's what I would say to the service members, be aware of that. Not only read the reviews, because some of these guys purchase reviews, try to like talk to somebody and say, hey, you know what I mean? Look around. If they're a brick and mortar place and they're near you, go to their facility, check it out. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I want to come by. Not like, well, you have to make an appointment. Be aware of that because at Southbay, you can come by anytime you want to. Sometimes 90% of the time it's clean. We've got a great operations manager, a great GM, and a great warehouse manager. Gilbert Velas does an excellent job with our facility. Gabriel Suarez, and you just heard from Chris Gonzalez. They do an excellent job. We've got another lady, Maria Gonzalez, our office manager. They do an excellent job. So you can come over anytime. Yes, sometimes you'll see some trash. Sometimes you'll see a part that needs to be swept. But at the end of the day, it's clean. So you have to be aware of that. So you don't have to go with us, but I would check the mover out and say, hey, I want to see your operations. And if they're like, oh, no, you got to wait, that's a red flag. Or, you know what? We don't have an office. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a red flag. They may be a great mover, but just be sure that you get a personal referral maybe from that. Hey, they don't have a warehouse, but they're great. So I don't want to say that because when I was coming up, I had a little like a thimble of a warehouse, and it didn't judge, my character, nor did it judge my quality. But even when it was small, I was like, hey, come on by, so I would say that. For us, I see you out there. Do you have anything for us? Do you have a question or do you have a statement you'd like to say? I see you out there. Yes. You got to unmute yourself. If you don't, it's fine. No worries. Okay, no worries. I just thought I've got another guy, Stanley Burke. Stanley Burke, tell me what you think about, you've done military for years. Tell us some of the advice that you can give to a customer that might like a military member, even if they're gonna go with a PCS move. Any advice for them?
Well, I think it goes back to what you said. Just with anything, communication is key with anything. So as a provider of moving services, I want to know what my customers' expectations are. I've been in moving all my life, kind of like you. My dad was a mover. He went back to the old top system. So I understand what I think moving should be. But like you said, we're in different times. People's expectations change. So the number one thing I always like to do is just ask the question, hey, what is it that you want to achieve here? What is it that you want to see, or what is it that you want to accomplish? Um, and because unless we know, because every move, whether you're doing, like you said, a COD move or a military move, a GSA move, yeah, we're moving furniture, but at the end of the day, no two moves are the same. So I would say to the service members, definitely communicate what do you want to achieve so we can make that happen. I think that's number one.
And I think that's excellently put, Stanley. I think that like in our COD market, we want to do the correct fact finding. And I think you have to do that even with the military move. No matter if it's a PCS move or a PPM move, you have to do a fact finding, and ask, to get them on the right product, to get them on the right, to get them on the right product to make them happy. You can't sell bread to somebody who wants a steak, but or you can't sell a fish to someone who wants to, or you can't sell a steak to someone who's a vegan. So you have to ask them and get them on the right product, right? You have to ask, and those are fact finding questions. Sometimes with military moves and even some national accounts, they give the same thing. And even at McDonald's, which is the most generic food in the world, they have the hamburger, the quarter pounder, and they have a Big Mac. They have choices, so they have options for you. Then I think as a mover, we have to find out, hey, what do you want? Do you want the filet o fish? I'm just saying McDonald's isn't my favorite, but hey, and I don't recommend it. But you have to get to the point that you can say, hey, we have to have a value proposition. And this goes for the military members too. We have to have a value proposition as their moves change and into more, they're morphing into national accounts and COD like private moves. We have to turn the dial with them and offer services and even some concierge things, and add value to their move. Beyond that, there's things we can do, other things we can offer, and other services. No bribes or anything, but just like, hey, this is some value. This is to set up appliances. There's services. There's a whole bunch of things we can do as movers and service providers to enhance our customers' moving experience with us. And that's anybody. It doesn't matter who's listening to this or whatever. We have to do a better job with our clients. Period. That's what I think. Ernie Pena out there, I see you. Do you have anything to add with that?
So no, I think all the information has been great. I think this is a great platform. What you guys are doing here. I think when to stick to the subject, I think that yes, you've got to do some fact finding. One of the things that I've done with customers, I was just on the phone with a customer today, and just, what are your concerns? Like, do you have any specialty items that you're overly concerned about? What have been your past moving experiences? And they'll tell you a little bit of their story, and then you're already prepared about overcoming their fears and their anxieties. And
Correct.
I give them their phone number, give them my phone number, give them my email, tell them, hey, I'm here, my phone is here, any changes, any concerns, any questions before we get to the day of the move. And we're here to make this as stress-free as possible. Let them know that you understand what they're going through. Let them know, you're interested in what they care about. You care about what they care about. And I think like Stanley said, you're fact finding, you're looking for those key things and then you communicate with the crew. As a crew leader, you don't just know that as a crew leader, but you take a 5-minute meeting before you're showing up to that move, and you let everybody know, hey, I had a conversation with the customer. This is what they're looking for. These are their concerns. This is what we're gonna go. We're gonna go hit 100, and so it's a whole, it's leader to leader to leader to crew, and you give them an opportunity to shine because they're not going into the house blind, right? So it's all communication. Communication is the key. From the time you get that first phone call, you sell it, you bang it out, you get an estimate, and the whole goal is to take the stress and the anxiety out of that customer's experience from the get-go.
You know what? I think that's well said, Ernie. I think that we're all on the same page with that. That's very well said and very well put. But we're going back to, like I said before, Stanley has been around, generational move. Ernie been around. I'm a 40-year veteran. This is nothing new. This is coming back around where we're putting the customers first, where we're actually going above and beyond service. And that's where we need to get to as an industry. And because we are a service-based industry, and a lot of places, like there's a lady named Georgia on, and she does a lot of international stuff. And she tells me that in Europe, a mover is like a revered trade. And it should be a trade here. It used to be unionized. When I was starting, it was a whole bunch of union movers where you could have a retirement pension. It's more from that. And it takes a lot to keep trucks and everything. And our industry hasn't done a good job representing itself. There's, like it's been made a mockery of a little bit, but we have to step up and we have to have standards, because all of our customers will pay Toyota $175 an hour for a guy in a toolbox. And here we come with a $100,000 plus truck and two guys moving all their worldly possessions, and we can't get that kind of money. Like it's almost an argument sometimes, because hey, but the Toyota guy, nothing wrong with Toyota, I love the product, but they can get it. But that's our fault. It's as far as an industry, because we haven't set our standards higher, and we haven't reached our customers. So I can implore everyone on the call and anybody that listens on a tape delayed, and as we go through this, because I'd like to have these hopefully we'll get some, we had an outreach, but we're gonna have a better outreach next time, because we got some video stuff going out, and we can actually get some service members to participate. And it's gonna be a good thing, because at the end of the day, it's to educate them, and not for them to be fearful to ask questions like, hey, I've got this, but I know you won't do it. It's like, no, we can do it. But if they don't communicate and we don't give them the open forum to communicate, they will not. So you have to get them in a safe place. And that's what I could say to any operations people on the call, any customer service people on the call, any owners on the call. Get your clients in a safe place where they can they can basically say, hey, these are our expectations, and we have to meet their expectations and actually exceed them, but at least meet them. Justin.
Awesome. No, I just wanted to give you guys the floor. Obviously, all the experts speaking at once. Before we conclude our Meet the Mover webinar, are there any questions, comments, or any other observations that you would like to ask Mario, or even the rest of the individuals on this call? No? All right, well, we appreciate, okay, Ernest Pena, of course, appreciate it.
So Mario, one of the things that I've found in the industry, and this is something that we shared when we were over there, is we're a lot of times as movers, we focus on the skill of moving, right? The packing, the loading, the wrapping. We focus on those skills. And, those are all great skills. They're all good pluses. But, I can tell you in my career, Mario, I'm sure anybody on the platform can tell you in a career that how many times you've got a great skilled mover at the house, but he's a poor communicator.
Correct.
Right? He doesn't, right? So that poor communication, the way he expresses himself, the way that he does things, almost nulls and voids whatever kind of skill he has to get a good quality move. So let me ask you, Mario, how do you think that implementing communication skills training to the guys on the street would get a good quality move? So let me ask you, Mario, how do you think that implementing communication skills training to the guys on the street would be advantageous to their and would be a plus to them being a skilled mover?
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it's the boots on the ground, just like our U.S. service members that protect us, that make the difference. Yeah, people are policymakers, executives. I get it, but it's always the boots on the ground. So I would say 100%. People used to say, hey, like we talked about this when I was on the road and I actually drove for years and years, I would sweep out the driveway. I mean, I would sweep out the garage. I carried trash bags with me. I made sure I swept the house. If I had a dust mop, I covered up with plastic. If they had a hardwood floor, I'd go over the floor and sweep up. I'd vacuum. I had my own vacuum. It's like, how many guys are doing that anymore? And that set me apart from anybody. It's like, hey, you vacuum, you cleaned up, you wiped up. A lot of health concerns now, and they were having us wipe down handles. We'll still try to continue that. But yeah, that's the way it should be. It's a standard. Everyone else, every other trade. The problem is every other trade, like an electrician. Okay, we're going to do work on the house. What do? We turn off the power. But there's no moving crew that has a set standard of like, this is what we do first. Do we come in? Do we do floor protection? Do we do the walkthrough? What do we do first? So I think that goes back to what your thoughts are, is communication. And so everyone on the call, everyone sees it, they have their own style, but we need an industry-wide communication standard, period. And then we can go from there. And then you can ad lib, and of course, everyone's going to do a little bit better job on that standard, but we have to have one standard throughout the industry. And then to differentiate all the companies, because everyone wants to be individuals and they want to have their own perks, they can go a little bit above or beyond or wherever they want to do from those standards, but there has to be a minimum standard. It has to be almost published, I feel. Justin. Oh, Chris, do you have one?
Yeah, just another comment. So something I've always thought this way, but I know a lot of guys, and actually, Ernie pointed it out. It's all mindset. So one of our guys, you remember this comment, Ernie said, "Oh man, we're the bottom of the barrel," and then Ernie goes, "No, we're not. A lot of guys don't have pride in what they do, and communication with the crew, communication with the leader. We gotta communicate with our guys. Say, a lot of guys treat this just as a job. For most of us here on the call, this is our profession. This is what, how we survive. And it's more than just a job. It's more than just another paycheck. We're not the bottom of the barrel. I mean, we've all seen this industry. It's a huge industry, and we just gotta change the mindset of our employees, um, by more training, constant training, and just constant reminders that we're out there making a difference. Not everybody can do this job. You know, you got how should I say this? You got possibly college graduates that can't do this job. They call us, because we're the professionals to do our profession. So that's what we gotta highlight to our guys, to our crews. That we believe in. We believe in our crews. We gotta make them feel, get them away from those comments that, oh, we're the bottom of, because at one point I thought that myself. And then some of the senior guys, I'm talking about 15, 20 years ago, they let me know, have pride in what you do. Oh, this is not my job. This is just a summer job. They said, well, if it's your summer job, have pride in what you do at the moment. And that always stuck with me and changed my mindset. And this is about 20, 22 years ago when I heard it. And so I've always had that positive mentality. So that's all I gotta say. It's important, feed our guys positivity because, you know, like you
No,
said,
I agree.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of cancers out there. You know what I'm talking about, Mario. It just everybody stay positive, and it's a good atmosphere, and it brings a better customer service experience because the team is, we're all one. So that's
No,
my
and
comment.
I agree with you. That's well put, Chris, and we thank you for that. Well, I think we're gonna probably wrap it up unless someone else has another comment. Justin? Yeah.
No, no. Does anybody else? Just want to leave the floor open. If not, you guys, thank you for everybody who attended, all the South Bay families here. But for those who are outside of it, you guys are practically family now too. Thank you so much. We're gonna have, like my dad said, we're gonna run this back in another 10 days. Be prepared, tell your friends, and with new topics, new discussion, and even more experts. So once again, you guys signing off. Thank you guys for everybody for attending. and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.